Picture this. You're standing there, maybe at a cafe, maybe at a small gathering, maybe somewhere ordinary. But suddenly, something feels different. She's right in front of you, not saying anything unusual, not doing anything obvious, and yet, there's something in the air you can't quite explain. Her presence feels heavier, her silence feels louder, and her body is saying something her words never will. Now here's the question. Have you ever felt like a woman was trying to tell you something without actually saying it? Like she was giving signals, but you weren't sure if you were imagining it or missing something important? Be honest. How many times have you walked away from a moment, later thinking, wait, was she actually into me? Drop your answer in the comments, yes or no, because this is exactly where most men get it wrong. Most men don't notice this, not because they're incapable, but because no one ever taught them how to read it. The truth is, attraction doesn't always come through words. In fact, most of the time, it doesn't. It comes through pauses, through glances, through subtle movements so small, they almost feel invisible. But once you see them, you can't unsee them. And in the next few minutes, you're going to start noticing things you've probably ignored your entire life. Signals that reveal interest, signals that reveal curiosity, and sometimes signals that reveal something much deeper. But before we go deeper into this, do me a quick favor. If you enjoy content that actually opens your eyes to human behavior, hit that like button. And if you want to understand people on a level most never reach, subscribe and turn on the bell. Because what you're about to learn isn't common knowledge. Now here's something you need to understand first. Women don't always express attraction directly, not because they don't feel it, but because they experience it differently. Where men are often direct, women are often subtle, layered, controlled. But their body doesn't lie. Let's start with something almost everyone has seen, but almost no one understands. Her lips. You've seen it before. She pauses mid-conversation, her tongue lightly touches her lips, or she bites them for just a second, almost like she didn't mean to. Most people ignore this. They think it's random, a habit, but it's not. When someone feels a sudden emotional shift, especially attraction, the body reacts instantly. Blood flow changes, attention sharpens, and small unconscious behaviors begin to appear. Lip touching or biting is often linked to internal tension, not negative tension, but emotional stimulation. It's the body's way of responding to something or someone that has captured attention. And here's where it gets interesting. When she does this while looking at you, or right after you say something, or during a pause between words, it's not just a random movement. It's a moment where her mind is processing you, not just logically, but emotionally. She's not just listening anymore, she's feeling. And when someone shifts from thinking to feeling, that's when attraction starts to build. This doesn't automatically mean she's deeply into you, but it does mean something changed. Something caught her attention. Something made her more aware, and that awareness is where everything begins. Now let's go a little deeper, because one signal alone doesn't tell the full story. It's the pattern that matters. The next thing most men completely overlook is proximity. Not touch, not yet, just distance. Pay attention to this in real life. When a woman has no interest, she naturally maintains space. Not in a rude way, just subtly. A step back, a slight angle of the body, a quiet boundary. But when that changes, It's rarely accidental. She stands a little closer. She doesn't move away when she could. There's a moment where personal space becomes shared space. And this is where psychology comes in. Humans are wired to protect their personal space. It's instinct. It's safety. So when someone allows that space to shrink, it's not random. It's permission. Not verbal permission, but emotional openness. She's comfortable enough, curious enough, interested enough to let you into that invisible circle most people keep guarded. And here's the key detail most people miss. It's not about how close she stands. It's about whether she chooses to stay there. If she remains in that space, if she doesn't create distance, if she even leans slightly in, that's not coincidence. That's engagement. That's her saying, without saying anything, I'm okay with you being here. And in human interaction, that's powerful. Now let's talk about something even more revealing. Her eyes. You've probably heard this before. The eyes don't lie. But most people don't actually understand what to look for. It's not just about eye contact, it's about how she looks at you. There's a difference between casual looking and intentional looking. When someone is just being polite, their gaze is quick, functional, in and out. But when there's interest, it lingers. Not in an obvious way. Sometimes it's just half a second longer. Sometimes it's a glance, followed by another, and then another. Like she's checking something, confirming something, or simply drawn back without realizing it. And here's something subtle but important. If she looks at you, then looks away, then comes back again, that pattern matters, because it shows internal conflict, attention pulling her in, and self-control pulling her back. This push and pull is one of the clearest signs of growing interest. Psychologically, when someone is drawn to something emotionally, their brain releases dopamine, that feeling of curiosity, anticipation, reward. And naturally, they seek more of it, even if they don't fully realize it. So her eyes returning to you again and again is not random. It's her mind saying, there's something here. Now combine this with everything we've already talked about, the lips, the proximity, the gaze. Individually, they don't mean everything, but together, they start telling a story. A quiet story, one that doesn't need words, one that most people never learn how to read. And that's why they miss it. Not because it's not there, but because they're not paying attention in the right way. Now here's where things start to shift. Because once comfort is established, behavior changes. And this next signal is where things become more intentional. Not obvious, but deliberate. And if you understand it, you'll start seeing interactions completely differently. Because at this stage, she's no longer just reacting, she's participating. And that changes everything. And then something shifts, not loudly, not in a way everyone can see. But if you're paying attention, you feel it. The conversation is still normal on the surface. Words are being exchanged, maybe even laughter. But underneath all of that, there's a subtle change in energy. She's no longer just there. She's present, focused, engaged in a way that feels different. This is the stage where most men get confused, because nothing obvious has happened. No direct confession, no clear statement, and yet, everything feels like it's moving somewhere. This is where her body starts doing something very specific, something small, but incredibly revealing. She begins to orient herself toward you, not just facing you, but aligning with you. Watch this carefully in real life. Her shoulders turn in your direction. Her feet, something almost no one notices, begin pointing toward you, even when she's talking to someone else. Part of her body remains anchored your way. This isn't random. This is subconscious alignment. In psychology, this is often linked to something called mirroring and orientation. When someone feels connected or drawn to another person, their body naturally starts syncing. It's not something she decides to do, it just happens. Because her attention is no longer divided, it's focused on you. And when her body points toward you, even when her words don't fully show it, that's her attention choosing you. Now let's go deeper, because attention alone isn't enough. The next signal begins when comfort turns into playfulness. You notice it in the way she reacts, the way she smiles, not just politely, but with a hint of something extra. There's a softness to it, a slight delay, like she's holding the moment for just a second longer. Sometimes she'll tease you, light, harmless teasing, a small comment, a playful challenge. On the surface, it feels casual, but underneath, it's connection building. Because teasing is risky. Even if it's small, it requires a level of comfort, and more importantly, it requires interest. People don't play with what they don't care about. They stay neutral, safe. But when she starts adding that playful edge, she's no longer just observing you. She's interacting with you emotionally. And here's where psychology comes in again. Playfulness activates emotional engagement. It releases small bursts of dopamine, the same chemical tied to attraction, curiosity, and reward. Which means every time she laughs with you, teases you, reacts to you, her brain is reinforcing that interaction as something positive, something worth continuing. And this is where things quietly intensify, because now, she's not just comfortable, she's invested. Now pay attention to what happens next, because this is one of the most overlooked signals, yet one of the most powerful. Her voice. Yes, her voice. It changes, not dramatically, not in a way that feels fake, but subtly. Almost like a shift in tone, a slight softness, or even a slower pace. When people feel emotionally engaged, especially in moments of attraction, their voice naturally adapts. It becomes more controlled, more intentional, sometimes lower, sometimes softer. Because now, she's not just speaking, she's aware of how she sounds. And that awareness only happens when someone cares about how they're being perceived. Think about it. When you're talking to someone you're not interested in, your voice stays neutral, flat, unchanged. But when there's interest, you adjust, without even realizing it. And the same applies here. If her tone becomes warmer, if she stretches certain words slightly, if her responses feel more thoughtful instead of automatic, that's not random. That's emotional presence. And emotional presence is where attraction begins to deepen. Now let's connect this with something physical again. Because at this stage, distance has already reduced. Comfort is there. Engagement is there. So what comes next? Contact. But not in the way most people expect. It's not sudden. It's not obvious. It starts small, almost unnoticeable. A brief touch during laughter. A light tap on your arm when making a point. A moment where her hand lingers just a fraction longer than necessary. And here's the important part. She doesn't pull away immediately. That pause, that tiny delay, that's where the meaning is. Because touch is one of the strongest forms of nonverbal communication. Stronger than words, stronger than eye contact. It crosses into personal space in a way nothing else does. So when someone initiates it, even subtly, it carries weight. Now, psychologically, this is tied to something powerful: oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It's released through physical contact, and it creates a sense of closeness, trust, connection. So when she touches you, even lightly, she's not just being casual. Her brain is reinforcing that interaction as something meaningful. And if she repeats it, even in small ways, that's no longer accidental. That's intentional comfort. Now here's where things become even more interesting, because as attraction builds, people start revealing themselves in ways they don't even notice. Watch for this. She starts fixing small things about herself when she's around you, adjusting her hair, smoothing her clothes, touching her neck. It looks like normal behavior, almost like habit. But timing is everything. If it happens more when she's engaging with you, when you're speaking, when you're looking at her, that's self-awareness kicking in. She's becoming more conscious of how she appears. And that only happens when someone cares about how they're seen. It's a subtle form of impression management, not forced, not calculated, but instinctive. Because attraction makes people want to present the best version of themselves, without even thinking about it. Now, combine all of this: her body turning toward you, her tone softening, her playfulness increasing, her touch becoming more frequent, her awareness of herself rising. At this point, you're no longer dealing with random signals. You're seeing a pattern of growing engagement, growing comfort, and growing interest. But here's the part most people still miss. None of these signals exist in isolation. They build on each other, they layer, they reinforce, and when enough of them are present, the message becomes clear, not through words, but through behavior. And the deeper you understand this, the less you rely on guessing, and the more you start seeing what's actually happening. Because attraction is rarely hidden. It's just expressed quietly. And only those who know what to look for ever notice it. Now here's where everything starts to move into a different level. Because once emotional and physical comfort are both present, the signals don't just continue, they evolve. They become more deliberate, more expressive, still subtle, but impossible to mistake if you truly understand what you're looking at. And this is the point where most interactions either fade away or turn into something much more real. And this is where everything becomes clear, if you're paying attention. Because at this stage, it's no longer about guessing. It's no longer about wondering, is she just being nice? The energy between you has already shifted. Now, it's about how that energy expresses itself in ways that are still subtle, but far more intentional. You'll notice it first in the consistency. She doesn't just show these signals once, she repeats them. Her eyes come back to you again, even when there are distractions. Her body still finds a way to face you, even in a group. Her attention stays with you. And that's important, because attraction isn't proven in a single moment. It's revealed in patterns. Anyone can smile once. Anyone can glance once. But when it keeps happening, naturally, without effort, that's when it becomes real. Now watch this closely. There will be moments where conversation pauses. Silence. Not awkward, not forced, just quiet. And instead of breaking that silence quickly, she stays in it, with you, holding eye contact just a little longer, letting the moment stretch. This is one of the most powerful signals people overlook, because most people rush to fill silence. They escape it. But when someone is comfortable staying in that silence with you, That means they're not just enjoying the conversation, they're enjoying your presence. And there's a difference, a big one. Now here's where things become even more revealing. Her reactions to you become slightly stronger than necessary. You say something simple. She smiles more than expected. You make a light joke. She laughs a little longer than usual. It's not exaggerated. It's not fake. It's just amplified. Because emotionally, she's tuned in. And when someone is tuned in to you like that, everything you do feels a little more impactful to them. That's not something you can force. That only happens when there's genuine interest building underneath. Now combine this with what we've already seen, the proximity, the touch, the eye contact, the playfulness, the self-awareness. At this point, her body isn't just sending signals anymore. It's responding to you, adapting to you. And that's the shift most people miss. Because attraction isn't just about her showing signs, it's about the interaction between both of you. The way she reacts when you speak, the way she holds moments with you, the way her energy changes, specifically around you. That's the real signal. Not one action, not one gesture, but the pattern of how she behaves differently with you compared to everyone else. And once you start noticing that difference, everything becomes clearer. Now here's the truth most people don't realize. These signals are not about certainty. They're about direction. They don't scream. They don't announce themselves. They suggest. They guide. They open a door without forcing it. And it's up to you to recognize it. Because when you do, you stop second-guessing yourself. You stop overthinking every small detail. And you start understanding people on a deeper level. Not just what they say, but what they show. Because at the end of the day, words can be controlled, but the body always tells the truth. So the next time you find yourself in one of these moments, don't just listen, observe, feel the energy, notice the patterns, because what she's telling you might not be spoken out loud, but it's there, clear as day, once you know how to see it. And if you made it this far, you already see more than most people ever will. So if this opened your eyes even a little, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. And I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment like this, where you realized too late that the signs were there? Drop your answer in the comments, because your experience might help someone else see what they've been missing. And remember, the difference between confusion and clarity is simply knowing what to look for.